Welcome back to another episode of What Are We Watching? Welcome, Emily. We have a little special episode today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So why don't you tell the people what we're going to be covering for this little Halloween double feature that we got?
It's The Great Pumpkin.
Charlie Brown? Isn't that the full title?
I think so, but I was just trying to do the Linus quote.
Oh.
Didn't I sound just like him?
Sure. Yep. Sure did. So yeah, we are covering I don't even know what year this one was. The 1966 American animated Halloween television special. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I wasn't going to do, I think for our episodes we usually talk about what we've been watching, but I think I figured we could just jump right into this one.
Sure.
So this one, I'm trying to look to see who's in the cast, if I recognize any of these names. Did you recognize any of these names? Did you look it up at all? So we have obviously Charlie Brown, Linus, Sally, Snoopy, Lucy, Pigpen, Schroeder, and Shermie, who I didn't recognize. Violet and Frida, which were two characters that I didn't recognize. And Patty are all the Peanuts characters. So I think everyone in this, they were all like child actors. I think they're supposed to be like, didn't we look it up one time? I think Charlie Brown's supposed to be like 7 or 6 or something like that, which just makes this a lot funnier. But yeah, we have Peter Robbins voicing Charlie Brown, Christopher Shea as Linus Van Pelt, Kathy Steinberg as Sally Brown, Bill Melendez as Snoopy. That's fun.
He's got a little bit of a voice in there.
Sally Dreyer as Lucy Van Pelt, Gia DeFaria as Pigpen, Glenn Mendelsohn as Schroeder and Shermie, Ann Altieri as Violet and Frida, and Lisa DiFiera as Patty. So yeah, did you have anything just in general? I think this is something that we usually watch. Like, what do you got on this movie?
We watch every Halloween. We watch this one.
Yeah.
I think it's always a lot funnier than I anticipate. Like, because we only watch it once a year, but then every time we watch it, I always laugh a lot more than I'm expecting to, just because it's really silly.
I feel like there's a lot of quotes that really like take you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
From this one. So, like I said, this was released in 1966. But I think this still like really holds up.
Oh yeah.
I think we've been watching this. A little special shout out to my mom. I think she's put this on when we were little every single Halloween.
Yeah.
And then like we've just kind of continued the tradition, which I always think is pretty cool. So these were obviously the Peanuts. They were written and created by Charles M. Schultz. This was directed by Bill Mendelez, who also voiced Snoopy, which I thought was kind of pretty cool. And yeah, it has a total runtime of 25 minutes.
It is packed. It
is jam-packed. Did you have any like early fun facts for this one, like before we get started? I had like some cool things just about like
I feel like a lot of the kind of fun facts we were talking about were more kind of as we walk through.
Yeah. So I had a few of them that I wanted to say up front. So this was animated based on the original. It was apparently a 1956 Halloween daily comic, which is what this was animated from. So it was originally a comic like the Peanuts. This was
how long it was.
Oh, what, like the original one?
When it was in print.
I really don't know.
If you think about how much happens in the plot, like I wonder if it's like the whole thing, or
I guess they must have
the Snoopy subplot, the trick or treating, you know?
Yeah, they must have like. I bet they split it up over a couple days.
Maybe.
I hope so anyway. That'd be wild. But so if you're wondering where you can watch it this year, I wanted to bring this up. It was a 54-year tradition to air this on TV for free. Mm-hmm. Then in 2020, Apple bought it.
Yeah.
So it was the first time. Worst. Yeah, it was basically the first time that this didn't play for free on cable. You actually can stream this on Apple. This is not a shout out to Apple. Just saying where you can watch it. Or you can go to Target, which I will be shouting out. If they sell the DVD of It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Highly recommend picking it up. So do you want to get into the plot? The very short plot, I should say.
Yes, we might as well.
All right, so this movie starts off, or this special, I should say, starts off with Linus and Lucy going to a pumpkin patch. So there's a whole little opening sequence before there's any dialogue. They're going to a pumpkin patch. They select a pumpkin to bring it home in a pretty funny little, I guess, sequence where he has to he's rolling it and then it gets stuck on the fence.
It's basically Lucy just directing him.
Yeah, with where to take the pumpkin. She's
just pointing and she's points to the pumpkin. But he's trying to actually get it home, and she's just kind of in her own world.
Yeah,
assuming that he's walking behind her.
He has to go around the fence. He bumps up against it. It's just pretty silly. They finally bring it inside, and then there's a really funny opening scene where she pulls out a huge knife.
Yeah, she stabs that
the pumpkin. And Linus, you see the first bit of dialogue where he goes, "Oh, you didn't tell me you were gonna kill it."
Yeah,
and that's basically that. There's a bunch of little scenes that kind of tie together the opening. So it's that one. Then it basically flashes to all the different kids. There's a little, I guess it's almost like a little opening. There's little ghosts and stuff. They're all dressed up. And then you get the opening. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, little trick-or-treating opening credits.
Yeah, which I thought that was cool. It's bizarre that they animated that, but
yeah,
it is very cool. So later on, the first, I guess, true scene of the little special is Charlie Brown is raking leaves with Snoopy, and Linus basically jumps in the pile. This was I wrote this down. You remember, the little scene that I'm talking about, where Snoopy is just blowing
he gets
a single
the
leaf
perfectly set on top of the pile.
Yeah. So you had so this is, you see Snoopy on all fours. Did you want to say the little fun fact for that?
Yeah. So apparently, when they started animating it, they had Snoopy on all fours, but as they were going, they decided that they wanted him to actually just be on two legs. They thought it was more character-y, basically, that it made him less just oh, that's the pet dog, and more an actual substantial character. So they switched partway through the production of the special. So there are a couple places where you see him on all fours. That was made towards the beginning, and then there's a lot of other parts, most of it, that he's on two legs.
That he
like
is
a little
on
person.
2 legs. Yeah, I love it. But I think that's so cool. They did so many of these specials.
Yeah.
They have the Thanksgiving ones, they have the Valentine's Day one, the Christmas one. But yeah, so this is the first one. I think this was the first TV special that they ended up making. So I think that's just kind of cool to see the evolution of Snoopy live like that. So Linus jumps into the big pile of leaves. He has a wet lollipop with him, and he pops up, and there's leaves all stuck to it. And this was I think this was the first scene that you really laughed at. Because do you remember what he says?
Remind me not to jump into a pile of leaves with a wet sucker.
Yeah, and he pops. They're all stuck around his mouth.
Looks like he has
a
mustache of leaves, basically.
It's so good. So then Charlie Brown's done raking the leaves, and then Lucy offers to hold the football for Charlie Brown.
That's a classic.
And this was, again, similar to how Snoopy, the little evolution. So this is the first time that the football kick was actually animated.
Right.
So this is
but it assumes that you're familiar with the whole setup.
Yeah.
From seeing it in the comics and stuff.
Yeah. Do you want to walk through this scene? There's some great lines.
Yeah. So
in this scene.
So Charlie Brown is hesitant. He does not want to attempt to kick the football because he thinks that Lucy's going to pull it away, as she always does at the last second. And so she promises that she's not going to, and whips out of nowhere, "Look, here's a signed document stating that I'm not going to pull it away." And he takes it, and she's like, "And I signed it." And he reads it. He's like, "You're right. It is a signed document.
A signed document.
Nothing could go wrong if there's a signed document," which is it's hilarious to me that they think that's gonna resonate with kids.
The Peanuts character is supposed to be 6,
right? And the average, but also the audience, the average child watching this special is yes, signed documents are trustworthy.
You see that? Always get a signed document.
But anyway. So Charlie Brown reads the document and is I guess nothing can go wrong if I have a signed document. So he decides to go for it. He runs. He's walking away basically the whole time from Lucy as he's reading the document and weighing his options. So he tosses it aside, runs at the football, and of course she pulls it away at the last second. and she's like, you didn't know that I didn't have it notarized.
And he was like, oh, brother.
Oh, brother.
So the line that he says, like, leading up to this also really killed me. When he's like, Charlie Brown, I'll hold the football for you. And he's like, no, you just want to pull it away, so I'll run and kill myself.
He's like, I'm going to end up laying horizontally and kill myself.
Kill myself. It's so good.
It's so dark.
Yeah, it really is. So it's a signed document. So then you kind of flash it. This whole special is just a series of like little bits, I think.
Yeah.
I think this is where you see the maybe like the comic side. Like each one of these
Right.
could have been its own comic strip. So we flash to Linus, and he's writing a letter to the Great Pumpkin. And basically all the other characters are making fun of him for it. He's called a blockhead several times.
Yeah.
And
what a great insult.
Yeah.
Every time we watch this, I'm like, I got to remember that one.
Blockhead.
You blockhead.
So calling people at work blockheads.
Yeah.
And Sally is the only one that basically has any interest in the idea. She's also like in love with Linus too, which I think is really silly. So Charlie Brown then shows up to announce that he was invited to a Halloween party hosted by Violet. And Lucy is like, nah. That was a
obviously
mistake.
That's a mistake.
That's so rude.
She was like, no. She made a list of people she wanted to invite and people she did not want to invite. And obviously she sent the invitations to the wrong list.
Poor Charlie Brown. He always just gets roasted in these.
I mean, he's also like a bald 7-year-old. So that's tough.
He's thinning. So then it flashes forward a little bit more to Halloween night. The children are preparing their costumes for the trick-or-treating. So Sally is cutting basically a little ghost costume out.
Yeah.
So this is just a funny little scene. Like, she's cutting out the eyes. She holds it up, and it looks like a ghost, and she scares herself.
Yeah.
And drops it, which I think is really silly. You see a lot of them are ghosts. Lucy has a great line where she is like, you're supposed to dress up as something not related to your character. Look, I'm a witch. And it's just like silence.
Yeah.
And they're all standing around like, that's so good.
Yeah.
You see Pigpen. They're like, he's like, no one's going to guess who I am.
Because he's like, just
got,
walks
like, a
in the
cloud of
house.
dirt.
Yeah. He just walks into the house in his ghost costume. He's like, no one's going to guess who I am. And then they're like, hi, Pigpen.
How did you know it was me?
And then none of them answer.
Silence again. It's so good. So they walk. They end up. So all of their nice costumes on. On the way out, they stop at the pumpkin patch to basically make fun of Linus for like missing everything.
You blockhead.
Your favorite line comes up again. Linus ends up persuading Sally to join him. Like, he's sitting there and he's like,
due to the crush.
Due to the crush. And the other kids go trick-or-treating. There's I would say this is probably the most like notable sequence. So all the kids are getting candy. Sally or Lucy is like, can you just like give me an extra piece of candy for my loser brother who's out in a pumpkin patch? Like, that's so embarrassing.
Has he already written the letter by this point? I think
he already wrote the letter. I didn't cover what the letter said. Did you want to go back to that?
Yeah, no, there was just so he's writing the letter. Lucy is just like roasting him the whole time.
Yeah.
So at the end he writes like, P.S. If you're not real, please don't tell me. I don't want to know.
Yeah, that's so good.
He just wants to live in his ignorant bliss.
He's just vibing.
It's amazing.
Poor guy. So at this point, like Charlie Brown, they're all trick-or-treating. They're all getting candy. Like I said, Lucy is like, I need some extra candy. I'm so sorry. And Charlie Brown does his infamous line of, or it's not infamous. Oh my, his famous line of, I got a rock. So he's going trick-or-treating, and 3 houses in a row, they just like plop a huge rock.
Well, he also, I think you skipped over his costume.
Oh yeah,
where he
I did.
Says that he had a little trouble with the scissors.
Oh, he's got like a million holes in his
Yeah, he literally just has
costume.
like a sheet full of holes is his costume. So I guess I've always interpreted it as he's getting a rock because his costume sucks. But I don't know if that's like really why. But it is really funny that like every single house he gets a rock.
Yeah, and I was looking into this a little bit. In the original comic, it's Linus who made it his costume, and so the original line was supposed to be Linus had trouble with the scissors. But I think because they just wanted for like continuity, it's just like I had trouble with the scissors, which makes it even worse in the comic because it was like I trusted my buddy. He
Right.
ruined my costume.
And then I got rocks.
And I got a bunch of rocks. I'm going to go home and cry. So yeah, he gets a ton of rocks, and that's just so silly. Did you have what was the fun fact we were going to talk about with the rocks? Do you remember this one? I can say it.
No.
So after this aired.
Okay. Yeah. No.
After it aired, do you want to say it?
Yeah. So I guess the audience was so bothered by the fact that Charlie Brown just only got rocks in the special that they started mailing candy to Charles Schultz saying like that it was for Charlie Brown. Yeah.
That's so wholesome. Man, I love that.
They just like felt bad that he like literally did not get a single piece of candy.
Like, we got to give him some candy. Poor
and
guy.
I guess I think that we read something about that they were on the fence about making it that he actually only got rocks. Like,
yeah,
they were like, is that too mean? Like,
yeah,
should we cut him some slack? But then like as they were like putting the scenes together, and like it was like as you watch it, it's like one after another they're like reviewing what they got after every house, and every single one he's like, I got a rock. And then like the production team, like they just thought it was so funny at that point that they
just
kept
decided
it.
to keep it.
Yeah,
which honestly I think it does. Like,
it's really funny.
It plays really well. So now we flash to my personal favorite part of this series is when you see Snoopy's little, I guess, subplot as the World War I flying ace.
Yeah. And I was debating when we were watching it this time, because someone asks Charlie Brown, like, oh, where's Snoopy? And he's like, oh, he's probably off getting ready for his big flight. And it like goes to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it supposed to be like a daydream? Is it like Charlie Brown's just like making up this big scenario about Snoopy, similar to like what we do with our dog?
Yeah, honestly.
And then they like animated it? Or is it like Snoopy really has this secret life? Like,
it probably, I don't know. I think, well, if you look at all the other ones, like the Thanksgiving
there's always
one,
something.
There's always something. Like when he's boxing the folding chair,
Right.
like there's always something.
But like our dog has a whole secret life
that we don't disclose to the public.
that like if there was an animated series about us, they
we
would probably
we would throw
include
that
Sable's subplot,
Yeah, obviously they're gonna include her little pulley system that she uses to get around the house when we're not at home. I don't know. I also think it's like they're supposed to be little kids, so I think it kind of plays into the whole like, oh, they're obviously like just telling little like funny stories about their dog and stuff like that. So Snoopy dresses the flying ace as a flying ace from World War I. Climbs aboard his doghouse and basically I think it was called the it's actually, they mention a plane. It's a Sopwith Camel. It was a British it was a British World War I era basically airplane. Like, so they have
is Snoopy also like not American?
Yeah. So you're also supposed to pick up, we'll get into that after he crash lands.
Yeah.
So it's basically this whole sequence where he's out to hunt the Red Baron, which is just like, which the Red Baron again was a very real, the Red Baron was a real person. He was a World War I German pilot that was basically credited with, I'm not going to get into it because this is about Charlie Brown, but he was a very talented pilot. Let's just say that. So Snoopy is basically flying through the air and is going through this little like dogfight sequence, which I also think it's funny that it was a dogfight.
Yeah, right.
Which dogfight is a term for like two airplanes in a fight. So he ends up getting fake shot down, crash landing, and then has to basically navigate behind enemy lines in France, which is just unreal.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like walking his way back, and I wanted to point out the backgrounds for his little like behind enemy lines things were not animated; they were painted.
Oh.
Which I thought was really cool. It was
cool.
It was basically one of the first times that they were like, let's not draw this. Like, we're not going to animate this. This is just going to be like actual painted backgrounds that we wanted to do, which I thought was like,
that's cool.
I thought that was pretty cool. So after going back to the pumpkin patch to tease Linus and Sally, we're kind of back to the kids. Mm-hmm. They all go to Violet's Halloween party that Charlie Brown, I guess it was due to popular opinion that he shouldn't have been there, which is still just so rude. The girls asked Charlie Brown to serve as their model. This is just brutal.
Yeah.
So he's like, I could be a model. And then they're like, great. Turn around. And they start drawing what they want to carve in their pumpkin on the back of his head. Because they're like, it's the perfect shape. That's so terrible as I'm reading this. So that's so mean. So Snoopy's voyage finally ends at Violet's party. He basically like is working his way again through this like countryside, whether real or inside of Charlie Brown's head, and he ends up just being in the party. It's towards the end of the party. They suggest that they start bobbing apples. Lucy is up first, and what was the line? They're Lucy says, "Let's bob for apples." And
so it's like the camera's just on Lucy, so you can't really. It's unclear who says it.
Yeah,
but someone's like, "Yeah, Lucy, like you should do the demonstration because I bet you're really good at it. Your mouth is the perfect size for it."
Because she's always yelling at people.
What does that mean?
She's a big mouth. She's yelling at people. So she ends up dunking to try and bob for apples, which is a really just gross party thing. Yeah. Don't bob for apples.
Yeah, I'm glad that that's past. Like, no one does that anymore.
That's not good. And she basically gets an apple, but Snoopy is on the other end. He's also biting it. She has a minor meltdown.
My lips touch dog lips.
Yeah, and then Snoopy's like, "Wah." It's so good.
One of Snoopy's little voice moments.
Yeah. And then he basically gets, I guess, kind of sad. He walks over to Schroeder, who is a little piano player.
Oh, yeah.
And he just kind of starts dancing. He's playing him like a little medley. And those are real songs. I had the names of them. I can't remember. They're like really old classical piano songs. He plays 3 different songs.
Right.
And Snoopy's just like having the time of his life out there.
Yeah, he goes from like, it's really funny. I feel like it has a very like drunk girl at the bar kind of essence to it, because it's like he's playing like kind of what's supposed to be like a happy melody, and he's like dancing and obviously happy, and then he switches to like a sad song. He just like immediately starts sobbing. And then there's like a really serious one, and he does like the little finger like I don't know what it's like. Is.
It's like
the pointer finger like
wave. It's like a little swoosh like in the air.
You can see us.
He's like
doing
drawing
that
a little
here.
U with both of us are doing it like you guys can see us. They're drawing like a little U with his finger.
Right.
Like what is that's so silly. So we are back in the pumpkin patch. Linus sees a figure. This is the best scene. So basically Snoopy has to excuse himself from the party because he's overcome with emotion at the piano playing, which he's just got like the weirdest subplot in any of these movies. Sneaks out to the pumpkin patch. You see him kind of crawl up, and then he rises up, but you can only see the outline. And Linus thinks, poor guy, thinks it's the Great Pumpkin. His hair is a huge mess.
Yeah, if you watch like what happens to his hair as he changes emotions like throughout the special, it's hilarious.
We were like cackling. It's so funny. He
has like 4 hairs.
They're all
they're so mobile.
So the figure ends up being Snoopy. Linus
misses
out.
it. Yeah,
because he passes out. He's like, "It's the Great Pumpkin." And he
just falls down.
Passes out. And basically Sally sees that it's Snoopy, and I think when her line is like, I missed tricks or treats. He's like,
this is like when she really loses it on him.
So she starts freaking out.
Calls him a blockhead like 3 times.
She's like, basically paraphrasing a bit. She's like, "I wasted my whole night out here with you.
I only get to do tricks or treats once a year, and I missed the whole thing sitting in this stupid pumpkin patch."
Yeah, and she's like waiting for the Great Pumpkin, which was just a beagle. It was Snoopy. Which
you always forget Snoopy's supposed to be a beagle.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really, like a beagle. Yeah, he doesn't look like a beagle in the traditional sense.
Well, I think like as this went on, like I think like you said, when they animated him from like on all fours to on 2, they wanted him to be more charactery. Like now, I think this is just kind of like unrelated, but they do a really good job with Snoopy and Woodstock, who does not make an appearance in this movie. Sad to say, they did a really good job of. You should be able to identify a character by their outline. Like that's how you know it's a good character. And I think like Snoopy is I mean, there's the whole scene with the Great Pumpkin, like where he rises up. Anyway, so within flash forward a little bit, it's 4 a.m. Lucy ends up going out to a sleeping Linus from the pumpkin patch, who's poor guy's just like shivering out there. He still thinks he's gonna come. He puts him to bed, and then it's kind of the next day where Charlie Brown and Linus commiserate about Halloween. So they're both disappointed
rocks.
For very different reasons.
Yeah.
So Linus is Charlie Brown basically is trying to be like, "Hey, I've done a lot of stupid things, man. You know,
Yeah.
You waited out in the pumpkin patch, you know. And Linus is like, this wasn't stupid. When he comes next year, you're going to be sorry.
You'll all see.
You'll all see. And then it's kind of them just like ranting back and forth as it fades out to end it. And that is again, an action-packed, I'll call it, 26-minute made-for-TV special. 25 minutes. Yeah. Did you have any other quotes or anything? I was trying to think of any other fun things. Like I said, the quotes in this movie are just like are just so good.
I like they call it tricks or treats.
Tricks or treats, yeah, that is pretty funny.
And that I guess what's implied is that Charlie Brown got the tricks.
Yeah.
The rocks, and then the rest of them got treats when they're like, I got a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
I got a rock.
I got a rock. But this is a funny Linus and Sally line exchange that I wanted to talk about. So Linus is talking to Sally in the pumpkin patch, and he says, he'll come here because I have the most sincere pumpkin patch, and he respects sincerity. He's talking about the great pumpkin. Sally goes, do you really think that he'll come? Linus, tonight the great pumpkin will rise out of the pumpkin patch. He flies through the air and brings toys to all the children of the world. Sally, that's a good story. Then Linus goes, you don't believe the story of the great pumpkin? I thought little girls always believed everything that was told to them. I thought they were innocent and trusting. And Sally goes, yeah, welcome to the 20th century.
Yeah, that is a great line.
I loved that line. But I think like some of the quickness and some of these funny lines, like that still
you
holds
miss them
up
if you're
as
not paying
like
attention
a funny
too.
line. You know what I mean? I just love that.
There's a really good line that Linus says. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it's I think like early on in the special, and I think it's Lucy that's like, while he's trying to write his letter to the great pumpkin, and she's just like berating him the whole time, and she's like, when are you going to stop believing in that stupid great pumpkin? And he's like, whenever you guys stop believing in that guy that comes down your chimney and gives you presents on Christmas.
And he's basically writing, and I think Sally's like, he just has more publicity. Like, it's like, that's, you know, they're both real.
It's as simple as that,
it's a publicity thing. Like, and I loved that scene. But I'm just looking over some of the other quotes. Linus, basically he says this to Charlie Brown after Sally, like, roasts him. I think this is out in the pumpkin patch. He goes, you've heard the fury of a woman's scorn, haven't you? Like, why would a 6-year-old say that? That's unreal.
And then the 6-year-olds in the audience are like, amen, brother.
But then Charlie Brown goes, yeah, I guess I have. And then Linus says, yeah, well, there's nothing compared to the fury of a woman who's been cheated out of trick or treat.
Tricks or treats.
Tricks or treats. There's just like so many, I think, very funny lines in this movie. Yeah. Did you have any other, like I said, I could sit here and probably quote.
Just like, I might as well just like say the whole script
might
top
as well
to
just
bottom,
play it and,
you know?
Yeah. So the one more fun fact before we wrap this up. So Sally, the person who voiced Sally, a lot of these lines, she apparently recorded them all in a very short amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
Because she had, do you want to?
You can go.
Oh, okay. Basically, because she had a loose tooth, and she was starting to develop a lisp, so they wanted her to blow through all of her lines like really fast.
Basically, just so they all like sounded the same on the recording. And
so they had to start. Apparently, there was one line that she basically had to say each of the like. She had to enunciate it really slowly, and they stitched all the sound together to make it fast.
Yeah, I don't know which line that is.
Yeah, but I had it. I mean,
it's
down.
not that noticeable. No, obviously, if we watch the whole thing.
I just think this is like you said, it's one of those where it seems like it's on the surface. You're like, oh yeah, it's like just a Charlie Brown thing. But now that we've like kind of taken the time to look at it, and this is probably my 100th time watching this, like I feel like every time you watch it, you really just reappreciate how great this was.
Yeah,
this is.
It is like nostalgic, but also super entertaining every time you watch it.
It's 10 out of 10. Would watch again.
We'll watch again.
I will watch
quite
again.
Frankly,
in a year from today. Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts before we end this one?
No. It's just our yearly tradition.
Yeah.
That's it.
This episode is going to be airing on Halloween. So if you're listening to this on Halloween, I hope everyone has a safe, fun time trick-or-treating. Look out for rocks. And and what quote are we going to say to the people to wrap this one up? I put you on the spot.
You blockhead. No, I do like that one you mentioned about Sally and Linus.
What one?
When he's like, I thought all young girls were innocent and trusting, and she's like, welcome to the 20th century.
It's so good.
That's pretty iconic.
Yeah, that is really iconic. All right, well, we're going to end with that one. Happy Halloween, everyone. Until next time.